Okay, here goes week 5 of our Florida Keys contract. It's December the 10th, 2023. And what have we been up to? Well, this week was about the Middle Keys. We snagged a couple days at a state park a little further up the Keys, Curry Hammock, and it was a little cloudy, a little breezy, so we didn't get to do any big kayaking trips like is fun to do up there or anything, but we slept in a little bit, got to rest from our big week last week doing Key West, and got to see some new parts of that area of the Keys, and it was really cool. And it also snuck up on us that it was our 3-year vaniversary on December 4th. Vaniversary. We've been living in the van for 3 years now, and it's hard to believe. It both feels like 3 months and about 10 years at the same time. It's a strange sensation to have packed this much exploring into such a seemingly small amount of time. It's been crazy. We did a couple cool things while we were up there. We saw the Sea Turtle Hospital on Marathon, which was really cool. They do tours, educational programs where you get to go see all of the rescued sea turtles that they're removing these tumors from and rehabilitating from something called bubble butt disease, which is sad to see the turtles with it, but it's good to see that somebody's bringing them in and rehabbing them and releasing them when possible. And that was really cool. And we actually just this morning got to go see a release of some of the turtles that we met at the hospital. And we didn't realize it was going on until we followed them on Instagram, and they said, hey, by the way, this Sunday morning, we're setting 2 of these guys loose. And we got to go out there to the beach here on Marathon and see them released, and I got a little bit of footage, so there'll be some of that in the video that I'll make about the whole thing. Question number 2 and number 3: find any good spots and what have you been eating, are secrets because they're related to the location that I'm filming this in. So let's move on and we'll get back to those here in a little bit. Where have you been sleeping and dumping? Those are both the same this week at Curry Hammock State Park up in Marathon. We got to spend 2 nights there. Had to move around a little bit, but that's how we roll in the van, right? I snagged one night, and then the night before that opened up, so I jumped on that. And it was a pretty cool campsite. You actually got to look out at the water, and the stars were beautiful, and the moon was bright, and it was nice. It was really, really nice there. Small park, small day use area, but it would be a good place to launch a kayak from. It was just too windy for us this particular week. Any new problems? Our oil change light came on, and that's not really that big of a deal. I'll find a quick lube. I usually use a Valvoline instant oil change or somewhere where they have a pit and a big door. As long as they have a good door and a good reputation, good reviews, I'll just do that. It's no big deal. What have you fixed? I'm going to take a 0 on this one because all the stuff that I mentioned last week is still on the list, which brings us to what problems are you ignoring? And pretty soon I'm going to need a scrolling list for this one if I don't start fixing things, right, guys? So I'm going to leave the stuff that was there last week on the list, and hopefully I've got a couple plans to get some of that taken care of coming up here. So hopefully the oil change thing doesn't end up on next week's ignoring list. What hobbies and activities am I pursuing this week? Still just working on YouTube. I'm really focusing on this, and I've got some really good videos in the pipeline. I just finished one today that's going to be coming out this week. So pay attention this week. I've got some stuff coming out and some wildlife viewing that we've been doing while we were up here. And next is have you seen any new wildlife? And we've seen, I was going to mention, I was all excited about tarpon and nurse sharks that we've been seeing here in this particular location that I will divulge soon. But after coming up here to the Middle Keys and walking on the old 7-mile bridge that's been restored into a 2-mile walking and biking trail that goes out to Pigeon Key, Sandy actually got to spot her first sea turtle, and it's actually the location that I saw my first sea turtle just a couple weeks ago. And we saw giant spotted eagle rays and a couple big sharks, and I might need your help. They're either bull sharks or Caribbean reef sharks. I'm not sure which, but one of them was quite large, and it's really cool to see them from 65 feet up on this bridge. You're looking down into the clear water, and well, there's a video coming out about that soon. Do I have any gear to recommend? Well, along that line, polarizers. And I have one on the front of my main camera right here, and it allows me to change the angle that light enters the lens so you can better see through glass and through the surface of water. If you have polarized sunglasses, you know what I'm talking about. They're a must for fishing, but in addition to those for your eyes, if you're filming at all, definitely look into a good polarizer. This is a really cheap one, but that makes a big difference when you're trying to shoot through the water like that. So that's this week's gear. And then up next, what are you watching, listening to, or reading? And I'll confess a guilty pleasure. We've been watching a channel called Wavy Boats on YouTube. And it's kind of like watching a train wreck. It's a guy who has a telephoto lens and he sets up at Haulover Inlet in Miami, and it's a really busy channel where everybody comes out to sea, and the current is just ripping and the waves are high, and people bring these $1 million boats out and just stuff them into the current and sink things and lose stuff and take it way too fast or way too slow, and we enjoy turning that on for some empty calories while we're eating breakfast or just chilling. Wavy Boats is really fun, and there's a couple channels in that area where people cover these busy boat ramps where people just get themselves into all kinds of trouble. It's like watching a train wreck. Up next is How's Benny, and you can see he's right here. He's just chilling out, waiting to jump out this back door and catch me some lizards. I figured I'd bring him on camera. That way it's like proof of life, right? He's the chillest ever. But he's been doing really good. He's got to hang out and catch lizards. Well, I try not to let him catch them, but hunt lizards at Curry Hammock there with us. And Sandy took him for a walk today at Home Depot. Well, you got to do what you got to do, right? So Benny's doing really good. Are there any questions? Last week, van brother Mike, Mesa Mike, who has a similar van to ours, the next year newer, although I won't give him any hard times about that, asked about what it was like being stationary and out of the van, and if he's got a little bit of a behind-the-scenes knowledge, but I'll give you the short version. When we last started making YouTube videos, we were in Texas, and after that contract, we took a bit of time to work our way up the Rio Grande and around and up into New Mexico, met up with some van life friends there. It was a really good time, and then we were looking for a new contract, and a bucket list one came up in Maine, and I mentioned it on the channel, not in a video, but we booked it right to Maine for the summer, and it was a really, really beautiful area. We were just outside the national park area where Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor is, and it was just gorgeous, just everything we dreamed of. But it was a night shift contract and 4 nights a week instead of just 3. It was good money for Sandy, so we were willing to make a couple exceptions to our normal travel plans for that. And it was worth it. It was a good time. But what we did, and what Mike's referring to, is we rented a house that Sandy could sleep in the daytime, since it was a night shift contract, and I could take the van out in the day and not bother her or disturb her while she was resting for work, since it was such a lot of hours. And interestingly, I stayed in the van the whole time. I slept one night out of the van while we were there in Maine, and Sandy slept most nights in the house, although while she was off work, she'd actually sleep in the van because it's our house. You know, we were renting a fully furnished, it was actually a beautiful bayside house in Trenton, I believe, just outside of just on the mainland from Mount, I think they say Mount Desert Island there. And we ate tons of lobsters and got to enjoy all of the beautiful rocky coastline. It was just awesome. But I couldn't tell you, Mike, I stayed in the van. I've been living in the van the whole time, and I think that's pretty goofy, but that's how I roll. And then I told you I'd get back to good spots and what have you been eating. And I'll tell you, while we're up here in the Middle Keys, and we've been here a couple times before, but this week I wanted to mention it. We're here at a place called Keys Fisheries. And they have a seafood market. They've got their own boats. They've got a seafood market, and they've got a little restaurant sort of situation where it's counter served. Like you come up and order your food at the counter, and you can take it to go, or they have picnic tables you can sit at. And then they have a tiki bar next door called Shannon's Shuckers and Shakers. Say that 10 times fast, especially after some pina coladas, where you can sit up there and eat raw bar style stone crab claws and Key West pink shrimp. And those are the two. What have you been eating? Stone crab claws and Key West pink shrimp. And don't you sneak out. There goes Benny trying to go out the door. And boy, are they amazing. We've really been enjoying stone crab here while it's in season from October to May in the Keys. And the Key West pink shrimp, I didn't even realize was a thing, but they live in shallower waters, and they got it good out here on the coral, and they get fat, and they're bright pink even before you cook them, and they make excellent shrimp cocktail. just a wonderful texture, and that's the big deal about where we are right now. Keys Fisheries, I'm in their parking lot, and I'm going to go inside and have me some of them stone crab claws. They serve them cold, which sounds weird if you're into other kinds of crab elsewhere in the country, but they're so sweet. The meat is so sweet and succulent, and they dip them in this, it's a sweet kind of mustard sauce. It's so good. It's so good, guys. And I'm going to go have me some of those tonight, and it's a guilty pleasure for sure. They do other things here. They're famous for a lobster Reuben. Now that's rock lobster. That's Florida spiny lobster, not the lobster we had back in Maine, right? They don't have claws, and they say the meat's a little tougher. I've eaten a couple of them. They're good. They're really good. But that's the Key West lobster. They do a lobster Reuben, and they have all kinds of seafood here. You can buy all kinds of stuff fresh from the market area. You can get all kinds of stuff, and this is actually a place that we found 3 years ago when we drove the Keys, right when we first bought the van, and we can't help but come back. And last week we actually met a friend who has a Class B van. He was the musical entertainment for the evening, and he's actually back tonight by a turn of fate, where we saw him on Instagram as well. And he plays just some awesome new country kind of songs, and he's been on stage with Jimmy Buffett's band, and wrote a couple songs about the area down here, 7 Miles, and about bars in Key West, and if check him out. I'll try to put some links in the description, because I like what he does, and it sounds really good. And he's got a B van, and it was really cool meeting him and all the other people that come up and say, hey, what's going on in there? Can I have a tour? Which we don't mind. It's a good time. So that is week 5 of the Florida Keys. I tried to run through it in a decent at a decent pace. I hope I did all right and not too short. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned this week. I've got videos coming out. It's going to be really cool. Good to be back.